History is often written by the victors, and for millennia, those victors were men. But twice in human history, the narrative was hijacked by the unlikeliest of warriors. One was a queen driven by an apocalyptic thirst for revenge. The other, a peasant girl guided by the whispers of angels. Both rose from obscurity to challenge the greatest empires of their age. Both led men when men had lost the will to fight, and both paid the ultimate price. I am Name, and this is the story of the Celtic Fury versus the Maid of Orléans. The year is 60 AD. The Roman Empire, under Emperor Nero, stretches from the sands of Syria to the mist-shrouded forests of Britannia. It is a machine of conquest, fueled by discipline and greed. To the Romans, the Iceni tribe were barbarians. When King Prasutagus died, he left half his kingdom to Nero, hoping to buy safety for his family. Rome does not share. They seized the land. They flogged the queen, Boudicca, and in an act of supreme imperial hubris, they violated her daughters. They sought to break a woman. Instead, they forged a monster. Boudicca did not just rebel, she ignited an insurrection. Uniting the Iceni and the Trinovans, she descended upon Camulodunum, the capital of Roman Britain. It was not a battle. It was a butchery. The veterans were slaughtered. The temple of Claudius, the symbol of Roman oppression, was besieged. Even today, archaeologists find a thick layer of red ash under Colchester and London. It is called the Boudiccan destruction horizon, the physical scar of her rage. She burned Londinium. She burned Verulamium. 70,000 Romans and collaborators were put to the sword. For a brief, terrifying moment, it seemed the might of Rome would be pushed back into the sea by a single grieving mother. But fury cannot dismantle a machine. At the Battle of Watling Street, the Roman governor Suetonius Paulinus chose his ground carefully. A narrow defile. Boudicca had the numbers, perhaps 200,000 strong, but she lacked discipline. The Roman wedge formation cut through the Celtic mob like a hot knife. The slaughter was absolute. Rather than be paraded in chains through Rome, Boudicca drank poison. The fire was extinguished, but the ash remains. Fast forward 13 centuries. 1429, the 100 Years' War. France is a corpse being picked apart by the English lion and the Burgundian wolf. The Dauphin, Charles VII, is a king without a crown, retreating, hopeless. In the village of Domremy, an illiterate peasant girl of 13 begins to hear voices. St. Michael, St. Catherine, they do not tell her to seek revenge. They tell her to save France. This was not a personal vendetta. It was a divine mandate. She arrived at Orleans not as a warrior, but as a standard bearer. The veteran commanders laughed at her, but the soldiers looked at her and saw the Virgin Mary in armor. She banned swearing. She forced them to confession. She transformed a band of ruffians into a holy army. When an arrow pierced her shoulder, she didn't retreat. She wept, she prayed, and she returned to the fight. That image, the girl in white, bleeding but unbroken, shattered the English morale. They weren't fighting a girl. They feared they were fighting the wrath of God. Orleans was liberated in 9 days. She dragged the Dauphin to Reims, deep in enemy territory, to be crowned. She gave France its king back. But the world of men is cruel to miracles. Captured by the Burgundians, sold to the English, and put on trial not for war crimes, but for heresy, for wearing men's clothes. On May 30th, 1431, she was burned alive. She was 19 years old. As the flames rose, she did not scream curses like Boudicca. She shouted the name of Jesus. 2 women, 2 fires. But when we look closer, they are polar opposites of the same coin. Consider their motivations. Boudicca fought for retribution. Her war was reactive, fueled by personal trauma and tribal dignity. It was a war of destruction. Joan fought for restoration. Her war was proactive, fueled by piety and a precocious sense of nationalism. She didn't want to burn England. She just wanted them out of France. Consider their leadership. Boudicca was the tribal matriarch. She held together a loose coalition of clans through force of personality. When the momentum failed, the coalition crumbled. Joan was the spiritual figurehead. She didn't command through fear, but through example. She provided a moral center that outlasted her own life. And consider their enemies. Boudicca struck at Rome at its absolute zenith, a suicide mission against the world's only superpower. Joan struck at an England that was overextended tired, and led by a child king. She provided the push that toppled a house of cards. The irony of history is profound. Boudicca, the woman who burned London to the ground, is now its guardian statue. In the Victorian era, the British Empire, the New Rome, adopted her as a symbol of imperialism. The rebel became the mascot of the establishment. Joan, the heretic burned by the church, was canonized by that same church 500 years later. She became the patron saint of the very nation she saved. Why do these two stories haunt us? Perhaps because they remind us that the spirit of resistance does not belong to the strong, the wealthy, or the male. It belongs to anyone brave enough to stand before a legion or a kingdom and say, "No further." I'm Naeem. Thank you for watching.